Hey guys, my name is Caden and I've done roughly $2 million in sales running my consulting company and my management agency, excluding what I made from exiting my e-commerce store back in 2020. I have had a very expansive career and I've been a part of a lot of projects and a lot of companies over this 7-year period. And today I'm here to make my first YouTube video and make that transition from exclusively posting on Snapchat to YouTube. Some of you guys have been following me for years and don't even know what I look like and have no idea what I've built or what I've been a part of. And so today I'm making this video to you guys a little bit of behind the scenes, and that way you guys see some of my own sales metrics, because I don't really show those too much. I kind of fun showing a lot of client results and other people's companies that I'm logged into on Snapchat. And so after I show you that, I want to go ahead and show you guys, I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about my timeline. What have I accomplished? What by year, I'm going to go year by year, guys, a play-by-play of what I learned from each year and what I did. And so that way you guys have a little bit of context on my career overall. And then I'm going to end it off with talking about what I do currently and how that works. It makes me different than the other people that are building stores and building agencies and managing offers. And then lastly, talk about why I'm transitioning from Snapchat to YouTube and Instagram. And so that way you guys have a little understanding why. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it by sharing my screen and doing a little show and tell. So this is my CRM pipe drive. I zoomed it in so there's less consumer data. Quoted 6.5 million through this CRM. So that's a pretty big number. We'll go ahead and show you a little bit of this. So I have a couple 100K month screenshots that I've done personally. Also got a little screenshot from a offer that I was on that did 2.5 mil in sales through Stripe. And then I'll go ahead and pull up my brand new operating system of OS, on roughly $2 million in sales, Vortex, and 1.9 cash collected, 5,500 calls booked, at least booked on Calendly, because we don't really keep track. We don't really book on Calendly anymore. I book manually through Google Calendar and use automations to put the deals into the CRM nowadays, but 15 close rate. But yeah, operating system. And then I'll go ahead and show you guys, this is my agency website, and I'll go ahead and show you guys the landing page for my operating system. I have this really cool dynamic asset that shows all everything. So this shows a little bit of the behind the scenes of how these different pages look. You guys to check this out. I'm not going to really offer this as like a subscription or anything like that anytime soon, because I'm using this mostly just for the clients that I currently have. But I'll also go ahead and pull up this. I've done K views in the last 30 days. So that way, you guys see that this is a brand new account. This is an offer that I managed that we did 42,500 in 1 week off $240 in promos. And then, I guess I'll go back to this, but I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and talk to you guys a little bit about my career so that anybody that's watching this video can go ahead and get a little bit of context on what I've actually accomplished and all the different business models that I've ran, and overall just my entire timeline to kind of written document it. So that kind of starts with mentioning the fact that I have exclusively been on Snapchat. I have never really posted YouTube videos. I do have a decent following on Instagram. I have like 3 accounts there, but Snapchat has been my primary vehicle to document everything that I have done online pertains to business. And so that whole journey really started with my first e-commerce store. And so e-commerce was kind of birth of me doing any sort of business. I had a company called Lux where I was drop shipping these knockoff headphones that came with no labels. So I was able to pass them off as my own company. And so I learned kind of sell products, run ads, build websites, all of that stuff from just running that one company. I had a few other stores before it. Lux was the one that really popped off. But my point is, I used Snapchat to document that whole thing because I realized from an early age that you kind of build an audience around being good at something. And so I decided that e-commerce and paid ads was going to be that thing at that point. And so just like the people that use, YouTube to document their day-to-day of them running a clothing brand, I use Snapchat to document the day-to-day of me running my store. And through doing so, I ended up getting making friends with all these other people that also ran other kinds of businesses. And I started getting hit up to go and do random freelance services like website design and advertising and making people's logos or flyers or running promos, all these little, I guess, side hustle ways of making money prior to me starting my agency. And around that time, I made friends with a great guy that ended up wanting to purchase my company because he had just sold his business right after COVID. So he was sitting on a little chunk of cash, and me and him negotiated to transfer the ownership of my Shopify store, the ad account, all my assets. And in exchange, did a little consulting with him, and I got a pretty large chunk of cash from exiting that company. And that's kind of what I've used to build my rest of my career. And I ended up rolling that into starting an advertising agency with the two guys that actually helped me out to initially learn how to run my own ads for my store. Those two guys, they were a lot more proficient at actually providing the service at that point than I was. And I was really good at getting the deals and selling and putting, basically the overall marketing structure, the copywriting, and a little bit of graphic design, but they were better at actually filling out the settings and managing the campaigns and making them actually work. And so we all partnered up together and we started my first advertising company, and it was called Revenue Solutions. And that whole company, the main thing we were doing is we were just doing what everybody else was doing at that time, which was selling paid ad retainers, charging a couple grand a month for us to run Facebook ads, to generate leads for different kinds of businesses. We didn't really have a niche. We didn't really know where, who we wanted to work with, because at the time we were just working with anybody that would do business with us. And I would build websites and little small things like that. And that didn't last too long. So we ended up switching to where I parted ways. I started my own agency, which later became the management company I run today, Vital. And through Vital, it began with me running paid ads just like I did with Revenue Solutions, but I also would build VSL funnels. I got really interested in how ClickFunnels worked, and I just went really heavy into the agency services for the next following months after I sold that store. So this was, give you a timeline, started the store June or July of 2019, sold it around April of 2020 whenever I moved to Austin, Texas. Then the agency started probably around May or so of 2020. So back about like the right after. And then around June, a month or two into running the agency, on the way back from visiting some family, and I posted on my Snapchat, a single post. Both the businesses that I ran, the advertising company, Vital and Vortex, they all started from a single Snapchat post, actually, now that I think of it. And I put something along the lines of, if anybody wants to contract me out to build a store with them, swipe up, something really basic. It wasn't like a nice story CTA or anything. And I got my first customer for that, for building a store from that, because I'd never really pushed that offer before. And so that's where Vortex was born. I never sold a course. I never, really, I didn't do it the overall majority of people that were big on Snapchat did at that time, which was just push a paid Discord subscription. I had a free Discord that I did later roll into a paid one with the help of my friend Aryu, who was doing a lot of trading at that time and calling signals in the group chat. But Vortex itself was meant to be in the beginning, it changed into something way different overall, but it's a consulting firm. I didn't want to just push a mentorship, because I feel like mentorships, especially now, 2026, mentorships end up being a waste of money a lot of times, because a lot of these guys are not doing any kind of done for you installation, any labor. They're just teaching you how to do stuff, which it could be beneficial, I think. But my point is Vortex started off as a company to match you with a person that was great at what you wanted to do. So I looked around and I kind of saw, like I mentioned a second ago, that most of the guys that had a following that were around any kind of business model were primarily selling courses or running a group chat. And I had since starting Vortex, saw a lot of success in charging higher prices and basically just working with the people one-on-one and doing Zoom meetings with them, where I would just control their screen and set up the accounts myself, set up the ads themselves, and do a lot more done with you, like a group project. Now, I made a lot of friends that also had a big following around some sort of business model, whether it's trading, car rental, real estate. And I went around to them and I convinced a lot of them to go ahead and provide some sort of one-on-one service, because a lot of these guys, they didn't provide any sort of one-on-one service before this, and they really couldn't sell anything over, $500. And so I became one of the only people that on Snapchat that was able to sell high ticket. And I got all these guys to basically post on their story that they were offering a one-on-one mentorship kind of thing. And they would route all the traffic to my calendar. And I would take the sales calls along with a couple other guys that worked for me. And we would route the person to the person that worked with them the best and take our percentage. And so that was, if you think about it, kind of where I started doing management as well, because I was, for lack of better words, doing an info offer for all these people on Snapchat before they themselves. So that was kind of my gift to the creator economy on Snapchat, among other things. But, around 2020, I started off with Vortex, just getting paid to build stores myself. And then I was running the advertising company, Vital, running ads and building funnels. 2021, trading was the big thing. And so I managed a lot of guys. That's where I met RU. Shout out RU. Me and him ran up a lot of money off of mentorships and consulting and info products and that sort of thing around that time frame. RU was the first person that I managed. He moved down from St. Louis to live with me, and we grew Vortex huge. We had this big group chat. I went and made friends with all these other guys that were trading that wanted to sell one-on-one as well. And we were getting so much deal flow that we would just kind of route them to the person that fit their personality and the kind of trading that they wanted to learn, as well as, I had a couple guys for e-commerce, a couple guys for real estate. So, we built that up huge. But we ran that all 2021, and then 2022, I think that's when about mid 2022, when the recession hit, that's when I went ahead and switched out and basically fired and parted ways with all the other guys that were doing some sort of one-on-one offer under Vortex. And I changed it to where Vortex kind of was like my creative arm for me to get paid to build things from scratch, whether that be an e-commerce store, a marketing agency, a Discord that charged a subscription, a coaching or consulting company. That's when 2022 and 2023 is when I really started branching out with Vortex, because I dropped all these other people I was managing, and I started just pushing my own service. I upped my price to where I was getting paid like $5,000 to $6,000, I think, at that time, per project. And I started just doing all the labor myself, and I rehired my team slowly but surely, a couple reps and, a operations guy. That was one of the biggest, one of the best decisions I ever made. I hired my best friend Mason around end of 2023 to go in and work in the company with me. But anyways, all 2022, like I said, was just me rebranding Vortex and going back to what I wanted to do and not just managing other people, and dropping everything related to trading. And then 2023, moved into a new house, started investing myself a lot, and I started running a lot of promos. Before, I was kind of just letting my business grow passively from me like posting and just getting lucky, I guess. And I actually ended up buying my first promo, I think, off of maybe Mozzie, the jeweler, and he ended up giving me a promo, and then I ended up meeting a bunch of shoe resellers, and then from those people I met a bunch of other business owners and real estate guys and trading guys. I kind of met the people from buying promos, and I just kind of got in everybody's pocket that I could, and paid everybody I could to go and get shout outs. And I only one to this day really that put people on to tracking it in spreadsheets. So I actually got so serious with promos where I was tracking who I'd buy the promos from, the amount of ads I got. I made whole custom sheets of everything where I could track all my metrics. And 2024 was a lot more of the same. I did a lot more agencies that year. So in prior years, my main thing was building a lot of stores. I switched to building a lot of agencies instead. And then to kind of talk a little bit more about the advertising company, because I haven't really talked about that too much. 2020, 2022, all those years I was just kind of doing paid ads management on Facebook ads, and then doing some websites and funnels for any of my friends or people that asked. I didn't really promote it too much. I kind of just had that on the side. And then I slowly grew, I niched the agency down. So that was a big thing big smart move that I made was I started only working with businesses that were making 20 to 30K a month, at least, so that way they could afford the prices that I wanted to get paid. And I upped my retainer a little bit, became a little bit more picky with who I worked with as well, because I only really wanted to run ads for people or build stuff for people that were selling services that they could charge at least $1,000 for, because those people it was way more worth it for those. It was way more justified for those kinds of people to go and pay me. And then 2024, around 2024, beginning of 2024, I ended up getting into growth op, or getting into management, which is what I kind of currently do. I'll go ahead and also screen share just so you guys have something else to look at. These are a few 100K months and 100K. Yeah, I even had a couple 100K months. A Stripe screenshot of me doing 2.5 mil on an offer, just so you guys can kind of see that I'm not bullshitting. But anyways, with the growth op offer, right, which is what I kind of am known for now, is where I manage ads and operations for people that are selling services from their audience on Snapchat, Instagram, and YouTube. I ended up having I had a really good friend named Max, and Max ended up launching an offer, I think, end of 2023, like maybe September of 2023. And he was kind of running the same sort of play that me and Aryu were running, one of the main trading guys that I managed throughout the years. And Max did it amazing. I think he was getting paid $8,000, $10,000 per person. He was running all his ads on Meta. He had a closer, he had a setter, and he had a media buyer. But his media buyer kept getting lazy and just kind of spamming Twitter carousels. And his closer would could only really close if the person watched a whole 20-minute, 30-minute VSL, so very warm leads. And the setter just was kind of wasting a lot of time in the sets, or in the DMs, and he didn't really have a lot of systems set up. And so he asked me, though, my point is, I didn't mean to rag on him, but he asked me to go and work with him on being his media buyer on a percentage basis. And at the time I had this huge ego, as I was getting paid like $5,000 to $7,000 to run ads, and I was like, at first I turned it down, and then I ended up taking the offer because I wanted more experience and I wanted to work with a good friend of mine. And so I ended up, working with Max. And so I ran a lot. That's where I got really good at DM campaigns, because I didn't really have to run many Facebook ads for myself for my own offer. And most of the people I was running ads for ran, in-person businesses at the time. So Max gave me a chance to run ads for his offer, and I learned a ton from that. And so I started off running ads for him, and I got into growth op because, like I said, at first I was contracted out to run ads, and it ended up becoming this whole thing where I was getting him a lot of leads, but then he wasn't booking them. And then, now he's booking leads, but then he wasn't closing them, and then he wasn't tracking it. And there are so many little small problems with every little part. And so I decided, hey, getting paid off of a percentage of cash collected, it didn't matter how good I was at getting him leads and getting him people to text him and book calls. It mattered, how many people were actually closing, and then also what his cash collected was, because that's what I was actually getting a percentage of. And so I was very incentivized to essentially troubleshoot the entire business with him. And so me and Max partnered up, and we set up, a CRM, funnel, the whole 9 yards. He ended up starting to close his own deals, and we grew that offer. And that was kind of where I got comfortable with managing ads for people. And because with management, you can't just be someone that's really good at running ads. You have to know how to run ads. You have to know how to hire setters and closers, how to track all the commissions, how to track all the end-of-day reports, setting up the CRM. You have to set up all the automations. You have to troubleshoot stuff because there's constant problems. If I pull up my management offer, actually, just a couple things that you have to troubleshoot. Closing call, show rate, pre-call, the post-call flow, the sales assets, the cash collected, bans, quality of leads, sales process overall. There's a million things that you got to kind of track. And so it was it attracted me because I had so much experience in overall running offers, both for myself and for friends of mine, and being a part of different things over the years, because I was very lucky to be able to get to work with a ton of people. But aside from that, I'll go ahead and get into 2025 and 2026, which is where I really excelled with my consulting offer. Started getting paid, even bigger numbers, $7,000 to $10,000. I think I'll still do stores sometimes for $6,000, 6.5, but it really just depends on the project. But I basically all 2024 after I managed Max's offer, I started stacking other clients to manage, and I got better and better at growth up. And then 2025 was more of the same. I really started, I tried trying to run, half agencies, half consulting companies, and also e-com stores, and kind of not just working on e-com stores, because I had, over time, I think with anybody's business, you mature and you grow into into different offers and wanting to do different things. And so I still love consulting and I still love working with people. And so I've kind of grown it up to what I do now. So I guess this will roll into, now that you kind of have a good idea of my timeline. Like I said, 2019 was e-com store. 2020 was selling the e-com store and starting Vortex and my agency. 2021 was growing the consulting company through managing a lot of other people that were providing one-on-one on Snap. 2022 was me going and rebranding the whole company, upping the price, changing the offer for Vortex, doing everything, a lot of the consulting myself, and spending more time on my agency. 2023 was me spending a lot more money on promos and marketing for myself, and really growing my personal brand on Snapchat through paid promotions, and then rolling into doing management in 2024, and starting to work on a lot of other business models besides just e-com stores. And then 2025 was just me enjoying the fruits of my labor and kind of growing my overall consulting business, as well as learning how to hire. 2025, the biggest thing I think I did was I spent a ton of time on learning how to manage sales reps for myself, and setters and closers, and hiring, and building a team. And because I kind of learned a lot of lessons where you can't get, you can hit 100K months, once or twice out of the year. But if you want to be able to hit the big numbers every month, you're gonna burn yourself out, and you can put the whole team on your back. And I'm very much a guy that loved being a solopreneur, and I loved doing everything myself for the longest time. And I'm telling you guys, as someone that is a workhorse that will burn himself out over and over and over again, because I love this shit. I love building stuff for people, and I love being the system architect behind offers and behind people's stores and all this stuff. You have to build a team, and that's kind of what I did in 2025. But to wrap this up and talk about what I do now specifically, you already know what I do now with my management offer. But as far as what I do now and what differentiates myself is every other dude that you can go to and pay to build you a store, or to teach you how to run an advertising company, or to help you set up your consulting offer. What I do is I focus on actually getting paid to do labor. I like to go and work with people on these projects one-on-one and work on it like a group project. So I like to actually build the thing. I like to get on Zoom. I'll normally, work with if I'm getting hired out for a project, I'll work on it for 6 months. It's not going to take 6 months to get built, but it's normally the projects I work on take like a month and a half, maybe 2 months to get built. And then the other 3 or 4 months is me and them troubleshooting stuff, because I believe in, if I'm going to put my name on a project, I want to make sure that I've done as much as I can on my side to make sure that it goes good, and I don't just get paid to build it and then, tell them, see ya, and leave and let them kind of have to figure it out on their own. My whole thing always has been that I do a lot of done for you and done with you. It's always been a hybrid offer, and I think that's what people really I think that's what's worth paying for, regardless of whether you work with me or you find somebody else. Don't pay people for group coaching. That shit sucks. Don't go pay people for courses unless you're that kind of person that can learn from online material. If you're going to pay, upwards of $5,000, $10,000, pay someone to set up something, to build something, to install something, to manage something. Don't let these guys get away with paying them to do zero fucking labor, because that's not worth it at all, in my opinion. And so my whole thing is I want to be able to, I don't put myself in the info category anymore. I'm more under the consulting company. It's more so, hey, pay, if we're going to build a store, pay me to build a store for you. I'll work with you on Zoom. I'll set up all the accounts. I'll set up the store. I'll set up the site. I'll set up ad campaigns. I'll launch them with you. And you're going to watch, and I'm going to make sure that you're a part of it by giving you tasks for you to do each week. But me and you are doing this together. I'm not going to get paid to sit there and teach you and just tell you what to do, because if that was the case, I would say just go to YouTube. For agencies, specifically, it's a little bit different than stores. We have to kind of figure out, I'll go ahead and reference it for a second. For agencies, we have to go ahead and figure out what the person's offer is going to be, figure out the deal structure, basically make a contract, brainstorm what the service is going to be that they're going to do, and then set up all the accounts that you have to go and set up to go and run one of these things. You know, you have payment processors, booking systems, like a booking call system, bookkeeping, automations, your CRM, your landing page, your VSL, your sales assets. There's a million things you got to set up after you figure out what you're actually going to sell, and then figure out your sales process. How are we going to get leads? Are you going to do 1 or 2 call closes? Get all that figured out. And then I normally have them, depending on the law firm, launch through organic first and buying promos and shout outs and just posting on their story and kind of squeezing whatever they can from their own existing audience. And then I have them start doing a little bit of targeted manual outreach, and then also running ad campaigns. My big thing when it comes to agencies, which, I'll make videos explaining each of these offers. I'm just trying to go over it briefly right now. But when it comes to agencies, a lot of these guys that are you're paying to build an agency for you, they're leading you in the complete wrong direction. They're having you like cold call, cold email, which it works in volume. But if you can use content and run the Instagram profile funnel play and run paid ads and have a little bit of sauce in your DM outreach and have a good profile that looks the part, you're gonna get way better leads, and you're gonna be able to charge way more. So when I build an agency, that's kind of what we're doing, is I'm helping them get inbound leads for whatever service they're doing. I'm helping them come up the service and then set up all the accounts and then troubleshooting the whole damn thing, just like I do when I build a store. I'll go ahead and release, videos, like I said, on e-com stores, on what I do when I build out an e-com store, and what I do when I build out an agency, and then how my management offer works. So that way I have dedicated videos to those. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and start recording some actual, case studies, or not case studies, interviews, testimonials for each of my services. So that way you guys can see some of the people that I've worked with, because I think that'd be pretty cool. So to wrap this up today, when it comes to my transition, I want to talk a little bit about my transition from Snapchat to YouTube and Instagram and why I'm doing it. I owe Snapchat a lot. Snapchat has made me a lot of money, but it has a lot of flaws, and they're not keeping up to date with tech and with optimizing it for business at all compared to Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Snapchat, you're not able to document stuff aside from pinning stuff to your profile. You're able to document stuff day to day and pin stuff for a week or to your profile. But, I've posted every day for 7 years and I barely have anything to show for it, because Snapchat decides they want to ban everybody. And so now, I've built 3 or 4 Snapchat accounts, posted every day for like 7 years. And I want to be able to build my own legacy. I want to document what I've done instead of just posting day to day and people have no idea what I do or what I've built. I regret it a lot on not building simultaneously on Instagram and on YouTube. I think Snapchat's a unique vehicle for your business, and I think it's cracked for consulting, and not many people run it at all. And that's why I've been able to take over the marketplace with a couple of my friends that are also big in the game. And so I'll be trying, this whole filming content thing is very foreign to me, but I'm going to be filming a lot more and getting in the habit of it. So follow my Instagram, follow this YouTube. If you've been with me the whole journey, the whole way, thank you. This whole creator economy has given me a purpose and given me a life, and I can't thank all of you guys enough. And if you guys are still here watching this video, I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.